Hello, this recording is intended to assist in your preparation for running the green machine. We're beginning with scenario 1, the hiker scenario, and this is the introduction to the classroom. Hello, we are members of an elite investigation team called the SBI, or the Scientific Bureau of Investigation. We are not law enforcement, but we do work side by side with them every day. We operate a solar-powered research laboratory that we refer to as the Green Machine. And trust me, I am as surprised to be here this morning as you are to have me standing in your classroom. I have to say this out loud. I'm not sure who your teacher knows, but they know someone way up on our chain of command, and they placed a request to have us come and work with you if we ever had a scenario that would engage young people in science investigation. And that's why we're here. We've been called to the region to assist in an investigation that began yesterday. I'm sorry. This is actually considered classified. Agent, would you mind securing the classroom door for us? Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, let me make this clear. This information, it is for you alone, and it is not to be shared with anyone else in this building. Are we clear? Now, I also want to clarify, you are to share all of this information tonight with your families, and with your parents in particular. We are not keeping secrets from parents. But for today, again, there is to be no conversation about this case outside of these four walls. So, are we understanding everything? Could I please see a sign that you'll abide by this request? Excellent. Well then, let me continue. Ladies and gentlemen, if I look tired, it's because I am. This morning I was awakened at 2 a.m. By a phone call from my director telling me about the details of the case. By 2:05 I was on the phone with my colleague, and by 3 o'clock we were mobile. We've been on scene since about 3 a.m. and let me share with you what we know. Last night, around 7 p.m., just outside of Letchworth State Park, a young female was found. She was medevaced to Strong Memorial Hospital, and she's there now under the care of the doctors and nurses. But unfortunately, this young woman remains in an unconscious state. She's not dying, but being unconscious, she's not able to communicate. And that's why we were called in. The reason being is that this woman was found with no identification on her person. She had no cell phone, no credit cards, no driver's license. We simply don't know who she is. However, we do have a list of her injuries, and we have been collecting evidence that may help us in determining her identification. Also, things that we've been finding may also aid the doctors and nurses in their efforts to assist her. But let me clarify again. She is not dying. She is simply unconscious. And I also should say this. Please know this. You are completely and totally safe. I can tell that some of you are getting tense. I need to remind you that this is a scientific investigation, and at no time is your health or your safety going to be compromised. I also need you to know this. At this point in time, no criminal activity has taken place, and no crimes have been committed. And if this were the case, or please know that if, while working with us, we determine that some kind of violation of law has occurred, then we are under strict orders to return you here to the safety of your classroom, and at that point in time, I will be contacting the state police directly, and your work with us will end. And it's not that you've done anything wrong, but we can't have those of you under the age of 18, minors, involved in a criminal case. So at this point, let me share with you what we do know, and I'll be breaking this down specifically into teams. Let me begin by saying this. This woman is covered from head to toe with bumps, bruises, and abrasions. She's clearly been suffering from prolonged exposure, and she is covered with mosquito bites and other insect bites. It also appears, though, that she may have been bitten by some kind of an animal on her right forearm, and now we're concerned that she may be suffering from some kind of an allergic reaction that could be the cause of this unconscious state. We also need to identify the type of animal that bit her. And, well, some of you here, has anyone here experienced being bitten by a dog? Oh, wow. Okay, a lot of you. Well, then you understand that as someone was treating the injury, it's very likely that someone else was on the phone trying to determine if this dog had had its what shots. Exactly, rabies. Ladies and gentlemen, animals carry disease. Our thoughts now have to be turned to wondering if this is an allergic reaction from an animal or an insect bite, or perhaps a disease that was introduced by one of these creatures. And for that reason, we're going to need a zoology team to look at these animal and insect bites, determine what animals and insects she's been in contact with, what diseases, if any, they carry, and what type of medical issues could arise from contact with those creatures. So that'll be the role of, again, the zoology team. Now, for the medical team, I need to clarify and make sure you're aware of the details. This woman appears to be suffering from significant trauma from a fall or from some kind of a collision. We suspect now she could be suffering from multiple broken bones, and for that reason we have an X-ray machine in our laboratory. I should say a light box. We have just had a slip of X-rays delivered from the hospital, and the medical team, your task is to now identify any broken bones, the name of said bones, and what type of break she is suffering from. And in your opinion, how we should go about then treating that injury. Whether it's something we could deal with an ace bandage, or maybe a splint, perhaps a cast. For all I know, surgery could be in this woman's near future. But the big reveal here is to determine whether her injuries were sustained from impact trauma or blunt trauma, and both reveal how and what type of accident we might be dealing with. So that's specific now to the medical team. For the ecology team, we found a water bottle in her backpack. However, the water is not clear. It is cloudy, murky. You can see sediment at the bottom of the bottle, and our concern is that she may have been drinking some form of bacteria within that water, which could be cause of her medical condition. We need now to have an ecology team to test this water. We're testing nitrate levels, chlorine levels, ammonia. We'll run a bacteria test. If we have time, we'll even break out a TDS meter, a total dissolved solids meter, and determine the amount of sediment mixed in with that water supply. So the ecology team, my concern is that anything you or I drink that's contaminated causes instant problems for the human body, and that's why we're focusing closely on that liquid. Under further investigation, we now found a jar that was filled with a white powdered substance. This information is now directly related to our CSI team. We're going to have you test this white powdery substance. It was on her boots and within this container, but I also need you to know this. We have a very significant dog. It's a police dog. It's a huge German Shepherd. His name is Oakley. Oakley has already completed his sniff test, and we know now that we are not dealing with anything illegal or illicit. If it were drugs, this would instantly be a criminal case, and clearly you would not be involved. However, please consider this. If any of you have seen a landscape company spread fertilizer, they put those big flags in the lawn to warn people to stay off the yard. And we're now wondering if perhaps we're dealing with some kind of a pesticide, maybe some type of herbicide, even a fertilizer. However, CSI, this is not my task. This is now your team task. And for your safety, we are going to be putting you in body smocks. You'll also be wearing rubber gloves and safety glasses. Until we know what this white powdered substance is, we exercise what is known as extreme prejudice. This powdered substance is considered dangerous until we know otherwise. So that will be your task, and we'll take good care of you as well. Geography team, I'm up to you. I do have some good news to share. We located a digital camera on scene, and Agent Rab has hacked the camera, and he actually successfully printed the images. Now, here's the cool part. We have one of the most powerful apps available in the world on our iPad, and I'm going to be giving you my security code. But this app will allow you to take a picture of a picture. It then analyzes the image, and it will tell us anywhere in the world where that picture was taken. It also gives us coordinates that we can then load into our version of Google Earth, and after we do that, you can fly in within 6 feet of where that image was taken. Our hope is that you'll be able to identify perhaps a mode of transportation, traveling companions, shopping destinations, sightseeing stops, anything that might help lead us to identifying who this victim is.
Now, at this point in the orientation, the lead agent will introduce the second agent so that they can explain what happens in the context of the classroom environment. So now the baton is passed to the second agent. Thank you, Special Agent. Ladies and gentlemen, I know it must seem very strange for you to have us here, doesn't it? This is not a normal event for your classroom, right? Yeah, that's the reason I need you all to think like a scientist today and keep calm and collected as you go through your investigation. You see, the green machine will not hold all of us at once. That is why we will take turns. Half of you will start in the green machine with the other agent. Half of you will begin in the school with me. I've secured a top secret research outpost just for us, known only to those with clearance as room 211, or whatever classroom number it is. Don't worry, all of us will get time inside the green machine because we will switch halfway through. The group that starts with me will finish with the other agent, and vice versa. As for the evidence, there was much we found in the victim's backpack, including a GPS unit. A geography team will hack into that GPS and rip the coordinates out of it. We can piece together where she traveled throughout New York State and maybe pick up clues and evidence along the way. Now, we don't know much about this person, but I'm gonna hazard a guess that she was into birds because we found a bird book in her backpack, as well as her research notes and contact book. We will have an ecology team follow in the footsteps of her study of a bird called the peregrine falcon. Perhaps retracing her steps could give us useful information. Which reminds me, have you ever been enjoying a bowl of cereal when suddenly you find a hair in it? Maybe your dog's, maybe your own? It ruins the whole bowl, right? Well, we found her clothing was covered in hairs. Don't know if they're human or animal. That's why we will have a zoology team use a microscope to analyze the hairs and identify possible animals with which she may have come in contact. Now, I'll admit, this is all very exciting and unusual, maybe a bit unsettling. The problem is I need my team of investigators to remain calm, cool, and focused. It's so important that all of our thinking is done under healthy circumstances. That's why we have a medical team who's going to take blood pressure readings of the whole team to make sure that the data and evidence is being gathered by healthy, clear-thinking individuals. And finally, I must remind all of you this is an investigation in which we will be handling physical evidence, leaving fingerprint traces. Now, to avoid contaminating evidence, I'm going to have a CSI team in charge of getting a fingerprint profile from each and every investigator on the team. Well, that just about sums up what my team will be doing. Agent, anything I've left out? And now, in this point of the orientation, the baton is passed back to the first agent to finish addressing the crew.
Alright, so I hope you've enjoyed the dramatic reading of setting the tone and prepping the groups for their tasks. However, once again, at this point you're likely to have a handful of kids raising arms, thinking that they've already got solutions and ideas to this challenge, and you really need to take a moment to pause the group, get them to once again focus, but then lead them through an idea about the dangers of jumping to conclusion. So that's where this now picks up. So back to the scenario. Remind the students again that you cannot jump to conclusions. Doing that leads to only one outcome, which is failure. We must allow the evidence to support us in our findings, and for that reason we rely heavily upon the scientific method. So let's review it quickly. I'm sure you're familiar with it, but the first step in the scientific method is that we survey all available information, data, or evidence. Only after this do we develop a hypothesis. Am I okay with using that word? Excellent. When we've created the hypothesis, what we then do is we test it, and then we try to evaluate it. If it holds up, we have a solution, but if not, we start this whole process all over again. Let me share with you an example of how easy it is to get things wrong in our line of work. So, for instance, I'm thinking of a number from 1 through 20. Now, at this point, you'll have random guesses. Hold it to 2. But however, then interrupt again. However, let me then give you a better understanding of the power of evidence and of observation. So, for instance, the number I'm thinking of is less than 10, and it's an odd number. So clearly you'll have a student try to make sure they get it correct on the first shot. And then I remind them that they had 20 options initially. With random guessing, good though they are, not accurate, brought you down to 18 variables, using the word variables. A piece of evidence reduced you to 10 variables. A second piece of evidence reduced you to 5 variables. And back to that then. So then back to the students, last thing that you're going to remind them that is this, that anything that's discussed here cannot be shared with anyone else outside of the room. And because we're now going to be moving through the hallways, we move quickly, but we move quietly. The finding in the observation is that many classrooms now in schools are functioning with classroom doors open, and so we try as guests to move them out quickly to the mobile lab. That's the beginning of your training, and that's the classroom introduction piece for the green machine.